Intelligence is supposed to connect us to the world, so why does it often leave the smartest people completely alone? Think about it. We celebrate intelligence. We build schools around it to help it grow. We create tests to measure it, tell kids that being smart will open doors for them and bring them closer to understanding everything around them. Intelligence should be the ultimate bridge between you and the world. But watch enough animation and you start noticing something strange. The brilliant scientists are in labs, and they have no friends. The strategic masterminds are planning alone. The gifted kids don't have as many friends as their peers. It's pretty much everywhere you look. It seems that the smarter they get, the lonelier they become. So what's really happening here? Why does intelligence, this thing we're told will connect us to everything, end up disconnecting us from everyone? Well, to understand this, we'll start by analyzing Princess Bubblegum. She's the ruler of an entire kingdom, surrounded by hundreds to thousands of candy citizens who adore her and worship her. She should be the most connected and least lonely person in Ooo. Instead, she finds herself mostly just alone in a lab. PB's intelligence made her a jack of all trades. She's a brilliant scientist, she's a strategic leader, and most of all, she's a dedicated princess who devotes her life to keeping everyone around her safe. But as she ages and grows, we see something switch. She starts installing surveillance cameras throughout the Candy Kingdom, implanting tracking chips in her citizens, becoming overprotective to the point of authoritarianism. At this point, she's using her intelligence to control rather than connect with people. And when we see her backstory in Bonnibel Bubblegum, we learn something crucial. Her very first creations were meant to be her personal friends, her family. They were Uncle Gumbald, Aunt Lolly, and Cousin Chiclay. They were made specifically because she was lonely and wanted companions. Even as a child, Princess Bubblegum was so isolated that she had to create a family to talk to. And when those people betrayed her, she felt responsible. Responsible for protecting Nettie and others who aren't as intelligent as she was from the dangers of the world, dangers that they couldn't even see themselves. PB's intelligence didn't bring her to others, it made her the person who watches everything from a distance, calculating and analyzing, but never truly connecting with anyone. But that's nothing compared to Manurva. Finn's mother takes this pattern to its logical extreme. She's a brilliant doctor who saved humanity from extinction. She used that intelligence to upload her consciousness into a computer system and trap every remaining human on isolated islands for their own good. When Finn shows her his memories of life in Ooo in the Light Cloud, Manurva can only see the danger. She watches Finn's adventures and concludes that chaos equals threat and that freedom equals risk, and that those are not tolerable. Manurva represents the ultimate smart person nightmare, of being so intelligent that you just become one-tracked and you only see every possible thing that can go wrong and you overanalyze everything until the only logical solution is to eliminate every uncertainty entirely and make everything safe. Even love becomes this problem to be solved and arranged. Two different characters, right? Manurva and PB. Two different kinds of intelligence, but they have the same result. The smarter they got and the more they expressed their intelligence in their environment, the lonelier and more isolated they seemingly became. We see this pattern everywhere in real life too. The brilliant student who can't make friends. Anyone else autistic in the audience? You know, the gifted programmer who kind of talks down to everyone but doesn't really mean to. The academic who becomes so specialized that they can't even talk or relate to anyone outside of their field because they have nothing else to talk about. Intelligence, when it's not balanced with a healthy dollop of emotional awareness and connection, it doesn't connect us to people, it kind of puts us above them, right? And that's exactly the trap of Rick as well. He's kind of the most extreme version I can think of. Rick is the smartest person in pretty much infinite universes. Literally, he can travel through all these dimensions and build devices that can alter reality itself, and he's never really met his match. Again, if intelligence were supposed to connect us to the world, Rick should be the most connected person alive. Instead, he's one of the most alone. Rick's intelligence operates on a level that's almost incomprehensible to us. He can see infinite versions of everyone he knows at any time he wants. He understands that free will might be an illusion, that death is often temporary, and that the universe is vast and also indifferent, and that things just happen. His mind processes information that would break most people, and that knowledge and his experience has made genuine connection nearly impossible, though not too impossible. In autoerotic assimilation, we see Rick's relationship with unity, which is a collective consciousness that can literally connect with everyone that she controls simultaneously. So unity should be the perfect partner for someone like Rick, but even Unity can't handle him long term. When Unity breaks up with Rick, explaining that he brings out the worst in them, Rick's response isn't to find another person or even another collective consciousness. It's to go home, get drunk, and try to do the unspeakable alone. Rick's fundamental problem stems from his intelligence and how it's central to his identity. He's convinced himself that caring about people is naive and that he can't connect with people who he deems lesser than him. He can calculate the probability of relationships failing or predict exactly what other people are going to do. He knows that everyone he loves will eventually die or disappoint him. Well, they disappoint him a lot, but he's also just smart enough to see that all of the ways that emotional investment leads to pain. So he's decided, whether consciously or subconsciously, that the most intelligent thing to do is to not invest too much in it at all. Same for his wife. He could probably find an infinite number of universes where a version of his wife is alive, even though there is a villain who tried to make sure that didn't happen. But it also wouldn't really be his wife either, just another version of it. So that kind of creates its own prison. In The Old Man and the Seat, we meet Tony, an alien who Rick develops a strange relationship with. When Tony dies, Rick has a breakdown, projecting his own self-hatred onto a holographic toilet.
Enjoy using it all by yourself while you sit there and think about how nobody wants to be around you. Look at you sitting there king shit on his throne of loneliness.
Rick saw some of himself in Tony. He was pretty normal, but he was also brilliant and emotionally intelligent and alone by choice, but enjoyed his time and had people around him who cared. Rick's intelligence is used to maintain his superiority over everyone around him, constantly reminding people of how much smarter he is and superior he is. When Jerry annoys him, Rick creates elaborate schemes to prove Jerry's inferiority. When Morty challenges him, Rick intellectually devastates him with facts and logic. Even with his relationship with Morty, it's just fundamentally based on the intellectual hierarchy and his superiority complex. Rick chooses to spend time with his intellectually inferior grandson, partly because Morty's brainwaves hide Rick's genius from his enemies, but also because Morty is dumb and different enough to still love him despite everything. Morty represents the kind of unconditional, illogical, emotional love that Rick's intelligence tells him is impossible, but he just wants to be surrounded by people that feel that and have that relationship with him. The tragedy is that Rick's intelligence could connect him more to people. He could use his vast knowledge to help, to teach, to build genuine relationships. But instead, his intelligence has become his excuse and his central focus for avoiding vulnerability and connection with others when he knows that everyone is replaceable to some extent. Like, he's convinced himself that being smart means being alone ultimately, and that being alone means being safe, both for yourself and for others. It's an exact parallel to Huntress Wizard's morals. Well, just like Adventure Time predicted, the smarter you are, the more isolated you can become. But there's another reason that intelligence creates loneliness than just protecting others and avoiding vulnerability. One that's even more dangerous, where intelligence leads one to obsession. Meet Stanford Pines. Ford represents a different kind of brilliant mind, one who is kind, who genuinely believes that knowledge will make the world better and wants to help. Unlike Rick, Ford uses his intelligence to pursue connection. Just not with people, though. With mysteries, the unsolved, what's out there. And that pursuit cost him everything. Ford's smarts told him that he was meant for bigger things than family boat trips and small-town life. So when he got the chance to study the anomalies in Gravity Falls, he jumped at it, building an isolated research laboratory in the forest where he could focus on unlocking the universe's secrets. But his intelligence made him the perfect target for manipulation, too. Bill Cipher didn't approach Stan. He didn't try to trick Dipper or Mabel up front. He went straight for Ford, because intelligent people have a specific weakness. They believe that they can handle things that others can't, believing that they're too smart to be fooled in pretty much any way. Bill fed Ford's intellectual pride. He told Ford that he was chosen, that his mind was capable of understanding cosmic truths that lesser minds couldn't grasp. And Ford, brilliant as he was, fell for it completely. The result? Ford spent years building a machine that would have destroyed reality, all because his intelligence told him that he was special enough to handle forces beyond human comprehension. But the real tragedy isn't that Ford was tricked by Bill. It's that his pursuit of knowledge completely severed his human connections. He became so obsessed with solving Gravity Falls' mysteries that he pushed away his research partner, Mr. McGucket, ignored his family, and eventually ended up alone in his lab, paranoid and isolated, trusting a demon god thing more than any human being. When Ford finally realized Bill's true intentions, his solution was to scatter his journals and hide from everyone, including his own brother. His intelligence had taught him that he couldn't trust anyone else to understand the threat and the complexity and the danger, so he had to handle it alone. If you're ever convinced that you're the smartest person in the room, you stop listening to everyone else, even when they're trying to save you from yourself. Now we've seen all the different patterns that lead to the same place with different intelligences and different personalities. Intelligence can correlate with loneliness. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this way, because there are also characters who break this pattern entirely. Characters who are geniuses and who use their intelligence differently, who've figured out how to be brilliant without being isolated, allowing for a coexistence between raw intelligence and emotional intelligence. But before we get into those, leave a comment down below with your favorite genius but intellectually intelligent character. Next, we're going to get into which characters break that pattern. So take Dipper Pines. Dipper has all the same intellectual traits that make Ford dangerous. He's curious, obsessive, intelligent, driven to solve mysteries. He finds Ford's journal and immediately becomes consumed with uncovering Gravity Falls' secrets. He's smart enough to decode ancient texts, clever enough to outwit supernatural creatures, strategic enough to take down powerful enemies. But there is one crucial difference between Dipper and Ford. Dipper uses his intelligence to seek to protect and connect with people, not to separate himself from them. In fact, his relationship with his sister is the mirrored version of Stan's relationship with Ford. We see all of his choices play out directly when Ford offers Dipper exactly what destroyed Ford himself: the chance to stay in Gravity Falls as his apprentice and abandon his sister, essentially, to unlock cosmic secrets, to become the kind of genius who transcends ordinary human concerns. It's literally the same path that led Ford to 30 years of isolation and near apocalypse. And Dipper almost takes it. But then he chooses Mabel. All because he's learned something that Ford never did. That intelligence and uncovering secrets and understanding things without the connection to other people is just elaborate loneliness. Alright, you're smarter. You figured things out. Dipper uses his smarts to understand what his sister needs, to figure out how to support her, and to solve the mystery of how to be a good brother. The same thing happens with Finn from Adventure Time. Finn, in a way, is incredibly intelligent, which might sound odd, but his intelligence isn't in raw brainpower. He's 11 years old at the start of the series, and he's already taken on monsters and dungeons and secrets and becoming rich and just a ton of things. His intelligence is also in learning constantly over time. He's a very fast learner. He processes complex information, he makes split-second decisions that saves kingdoms, and adapts quickly after he's learned a hard lesson. But his intelligence is always in service of connection. He stays vulnerable, he asks for help, and he admits when he's wrong. Some of the time. Or eventually, at least. His differences lie in his emotional intelligence that he learns over time over the course of the series, which means that he is smart enough to know when he doesn't know something. And that's the difference between these characters. Characters who break the loneliness cycle use their intelligence as a tool for learning about others and understanding others, not just for elevating themselves above others. They're curious about people, not just ideas. They ask, how can I help, instead of how am I special and better? Finn develops his emotional intelligence and his connections with others throughout the course of Adventure Time. Finn wants to help people and wants to improve his relationships with others, even though he also loves exploring and learning about the Land of Oo. So, If you've ever felt like your intelligence was making you lonely, like it was keeping you isolated, that you feel that you might be smarter and better than other people, but that you still feel as if you're not getting the full picture, well, here's some advice on how you can break that cycle. First, get curious about people the same way you get curious about ideas. It doesn't only have to be their intelligence that matches yours. You can just ask questions about what someone's going through, or what about their life is interesting, or just learn more about them in general. Don't ask them to try to solve their problems, just to learn more about them and who they are. Ask them to understand their experience. Second, practice being wrong in front of people. Smart people often avoid situations where they might look stupid or where they might show their ignorance, but that's exactly where the connection sometimes happens. It's when you're vulnerable, when you're exposed, when you are more of a human being to people instead of a processor, when, you're a person. Ask for help. Admit when you don't understand something. Let someone teach you something else for once. Let them go through their whole diatribe, even if you might think you know something about it or more than they do. Sometimes they just want to tell you something and make that kind of connection with you. Place yourself in someone else's shoes. How do you feel when someone asks you for help or really does something with the advice that you gave them, instead of them talking to you as if you're less than them, that they have all the solutions, that you're not worthy of them, right? It's that kind of emotional connection you need to make with people to escape this kind of trap. Allow yourself to give others that feeling of connecting with you, of teaching you, of reaching out to you and you accepting it. And finally, use your intelligence to notice what others need and what they want in a conversation, in the back and forth, and in a relationship. Like, instead of cataloging all the ways that people around you are being illogical or inefficient or not doing things the right way, or, they're crazy because they're doing things inefficiently, just try to figure out what they're feeling, what they're struggling with, and how you can support them without necessarily telling them the solutions to their problems. Intelligence is a tool. You can use it to stay above everyone else, isolated in your watchtower, figuring out all the computer beep boops and learning about the universe and all that. Or you can use your tools and your intelligence to connect with the world, sure, but also with other people, and use the tools to help build things for others and learn about other people, not tear them down and stand above them. Now, not to brag or anything, but I was that autistic gifted kid in class who kind of crashed out and didn't go anywhere with my super intelligence. Well, the thing is, I started learning more about other people. I started caring more about other people and what they thought, and I started emulating other people and how they talk to people, and I became better at it, even though I started out as more awkward, and even though I considered myself smarter than everyone else. I decided to put a bit more effort into it, and it's definitely been a journey, and it still is, and I still get angry and frustrated with my lack of understanding of some things, and I seek to discover more and I want to understand, but at least it's also about people, in addition to learning about the world. But, being smart, as I'm sure everyone in the audience is because you're watching this channel, means that you can learn in an increased and more efficient way. It doesn't mean that you have to be lonely because of it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into how intelligence can isolate us, you should definitely check out our video on Jake's philosophy, because while we've been talking about how smart people can be lonely, Jake kind of represents the opposite. He's smart, but not super genius or anything, and he's someone who seems really kind of simple on the surface and really has that deep, profound wisdom about connection, acceptance, and what it really means to be there for the people you love. So remember to leave us a like, down a comment, and subscribe if you can, and we'll see you in the next video.